I'm 32 now. My sister is 34, and we've had decades to try to rationalize what we saw that Christmas morning. But there's no rational explanation. There never has been. It was Christmas Eve, and like any excited kids, my sister and I couldn't sleep. We'd been lying in our beds for hours, whispering to each other. Are you awake? Do you think he's here yet? Finally, we couldn't take it anymore. We crept out of our bedroom, the floor cold under our feet. Our house had this layout where you could see the living room from the hallway and down the other direction straight into our parents' bedroom. The door was always open. My sister grabbed my hand as we tiptoed down the hallway. We peeked around the corner into the living room and my heart nearly stopped. He was there. Santa Claus was standing in our living room, right there in front of our Christmas tree. The red suit, the black boots, the white beard, everything. He was placing presents under the tree, and we could hear the rustle of wrapping paper, the soft thud of boxes being set down. My sister squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. We were seeing Santa Claus. Magic was real. But then something made us look away. We both turned our heads at the exact same moment and looked down the hallway toward our parents' bedroom. Mom and Dad were sound asleep in their bed. I could even hear my dad snoring. If our parents were asleep in their bedroom, then who was that in the living room? That's when we looked back. Santa Claus was standing up now, turning to face us. His eyes found ours across the dim room, and I saw them twinkle. Not the jolly twinkle from stories. This was different, knowing, ancient. He raised one finger to his lips, slowly. Shh. And then his body started to dissolve. I don't have another word for it. His entire body began breaking apart into fine, shimmering gold dust. Thousands of tiny particles of sparkling gold, like someone had turned Santa Claus into glitter. The particles caught the light from the Christmas tree and glowed as they floated in the air. He disintegrated right before our eyes. The red suit, the white beard, everything, all turning into that impossible gold dust that sparkled and danced before slowly settling toward the floor. I don't remember making the decision to scream. My sister and I both did, at the top of our lungs as we ran to our parents' room. Dad came running out, confused and panicked. He saw the genuine terror in our eyes and ran into the living room. My mom grabbed us, holding us close. I was shaking so hard I thought I might throw up. "The door," Dad said. His voice sounded hollow. The front door was standing wide open. Cold December air poured into the house, but that wasn't the worst part. There was snow on our living room floor. Actual snow. Wet, melting snow that had tracked across our carpet, leaving dark trails and footprints. Big boot prints. And everywhere was that gold glitter. The same shimmering gold dust we'd watched Santa turn into. It covered the floor, the presents, the Christmas tree, the walls. My dad immediately thought it was my uncle playing a prank. Uncle Mike loved magic tricks. So Dad called him, angry, demanding to know why he would scare his kids like this. But Uncle Mike answered groggy and confused. Dad had woken him up. He'd been asleep at his own house miles away. He had no idea what Dad was talking about. That's when my parents called the police. I'll never forget the red and blue lights flooding our living room. 2 officers came, and at first, I could tell they didn't believe us. Kids see Santa all the time, right? But then my dad showed them the evidence. The snow on the floor, real snow melting into our carpet. The footprints, clear as day, and the gold glitter that covered everything, sparkling in the officers' flashlight beams. I watched their faces change from skepticism to confusion to unease. They filed a police report, actually wrote it all down, took photos. They never found an explanation. No one ever did. My sister and I are adults now, with families of our own. Our kids leave out cookies for Santa every Christmas Eve, and we smile and play along. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the living room on Christmas Eve, I think about that night. I think about a man in a red suit who placed presents under our tree while our parents slept, who looked at 2 terrified children and told them to keep his secret, who then turned into gold dust and disappeared, leaving behind footprints in the snow and glitter that took months to clean up. People ask me if I believe in Santa Claus. I tell them, I don't know what I believe, but I know what I saw. I know my sister saw it too. I know the police documented physical evidence that couldn't be explained. Even now, decades later, I still sometimes find that gold glitter in boxes of Christmas decorations my parents gave me. Some things aren't meant to be explained. Some things are meant to stay mysterious, even when that magic is absolutely terrifying. My name was Edward F. Smith, and I lived at 136 Clinton Avenue in Brooklyn with my wife and 2 daughters. I was a master builder, a practical man who worked with wood and nails. I dealt in things that could be touched and seen. I did not believe in ghosts. But what happened to my family in December 1878 changed everything. It started one evening just as the sun was setting. I was sitting with my family in our parlor when the doorbell rang. I opened the door expecting a neighbor or caroler. There was no one there. I looked up and down Clinton Avenue. Empty. I went back inside thinking perhaps the wind had triggered the bell. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Again, no one was there. This happened 7 times that first evening. By the 7th time, my wife was frightened and my daughters were clinging to her skirts. The next night it happened again, and the night after that. Every evening that doorbell would ring, sometimes dozens of times, with nobody there. I grew obsessed with catching whoever was doing this, so I devised a trap. I took flour and ash and carefully spread it along the entire path to our front door. Anyone approaching would have to leave footprints. That night, my wife and I positioned ourselves with a clear view of the door. At 6:47 p.m., the doorbell rang. I rushed to the door and threw it open, already looking down at my trap. The flour and ash were completely undisturbed, not a single footprint. But the doorbell had definitely rung. I stood there staring at that perfect, unmarked path, and for the first time, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. A crack in my rational worldview. Then it got worse. The simple doorbell ringing evolved into violent banging. Heavy, thunderous blows that shook the door frames, that made my wife scream and my daughters cry. I would run to wherever the sound came from, but there was never anyone there. My family was losing our minds. None of us could sleep. Finally, in desperation, I walked to the police station late one night. "Something is in my house," I told them. "Something is tormenting my family." Detective Price agreed to investigate. On a Wednesday night, he and several officers came to my home. They examined everything, looking for any mechanical explanation. They found nothing. Then it started. The doorbell rang violently, as if someone was leaning on it with all their weight. An officer threw the door open immediately. Nothing. Then the banging started. The doors separating our dining room from the kitchen began to shake with such force the entire house trembled. The officers' faces went pale. This was real, physical phenomenon they were witnessing. Detective Price positioned himself at the door, feeling the vibrations. The banging was so loud we had to shout to be heard, and then it stopped. Complete silence fell over the house. What came next was a brick crashing through our dining room window. Glass exploded inward. We all rushed to the window, officers both inside and outside converging on the spot. No one had been there. The officers who'd been watching that side of the house swore they had seen absolutely nothing. The brick had simply appeared and crashed through our window. The police searched our house from cellar to attic. They found nothing that could account for what they'd witnessed. The story spread through Brooklyn like wildfire. Spiritualists gathered on our sidewalk begging to conduct seances. People began holding what they called semi-seances right there on the public sidewalk. The crowds got so large that police had to disperse them. The New York Times published articles about our haunting. Our story became a sensation. But we didn't want fame. We wanted peace. We wanted our home back. And then, in late December, the phenomena simply ceased. No more doorbell ringing. No more violent banging. Our home fell silent. Some suggested I'd finally solved the problem. The truth? I have no idea why it stopped. Perhaps whatever was there grew bored. Perhaps it was simply time for it to move on. The house still stands on Clinton Avenue today. No one has ever explained what happened to my family in the winter of 1878. Skeptics claim it must have been a hoax, though they can never explain how or why the police documented the impossible things they witnessed. I spent the rest of my life as a changed man, but late at night, when the house was quiet, I would sometimes sit in that parlor and listen, waiting for that doorbell to ring one more time. It never did, but I still wonder, What was it that knocked on my door that December? And why did it simply stop? Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some things exist beyond the edges of our rational minds. My Christmas wasn't scary in the traditional sense. There were no ghosts or monsters, but I experienced genuine horror yesterday. My father has been mean to me and my sister all year. Not occasionally, consistently, relentlessly negative and critical. Every conversation becomes a criticism. Every achievement gets minimized. My sister is smart. She made plans to spend Christmas elsewhere. I felt this surge of jealousy when she told me. She was getting out. She was choosing herself. But me? I'm still here, still trapped in the same patterns. As Christmas approached, my father acted like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't spent the year making us feel small and unwanted. He seemed to expect that we would beg for his time, that we would plead with him to spend the holidays with us. I didn't beg. Christmas morning came. I went through the motions, opening obligatory presents, saying thank you for things I didn't want, trying to muster enthusiasm I didn't feel. And then came dinner. My mother had set our beautiful dining room table with her good dishes. She'd cooked for hours. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, all the traditional dishes laid out like a magazine spread. The four of us sat down. Me, my mother, my father, and the empty chair where my sister should have been. That empty chair felt like an accusation. My mother tried. She asked questions, made comments about the food, attempted conversations. The turkey came out really moist this year, don't you think? Did you see the Johnsons put up new Christmas lights? Silence. My father sat there, phone in hand, scrolling through TikTok. I could hear it, those annoying sounds, music snippets, people talking, that AI voice reading text. He had the volume turned up just loud enough that we could all hear it, even though he was wearing headphones. It was his way of telling us that whatever was on his phone was more interesting than we were. I looked at my mother. Her smile was cracking. She'd spent all morning cooking, had set this beautiful table, had tried so hard, and she was being ignored. I looked at my father. His face was illuminated by blue screen glow, his expression blank, completely disengaged from everything. I realized we weren't going to talk. We were going to sit here in this suffocating silence and pretend this was normal. So I ate my food. I focused on chewing, swallowing, cutting the next piece. I didn't look up. The silence was crushing. Not peaceful quiet, heavy, dense silence that sucked all the air out of the room. I could hear every sound magnified. Forks scraping plates, my mother's forced chewing, the clock ticking, and underneath it all, the constant tinny sounds from my father's headphones. I thought about my sister, pictured her wherever she was, probably laughing, having real conversations, feeling like a human being. The jealousy came back so strong I almost couldn't breathe. 47 minutes. That's how long Christmas dinner lasted. 47 minutes of silence broken only by eating sounds and my father's phone. When I excused myself, my mother looked up with this expression I'll never forget. Hope mixed with defeat. She wanted me to stay, to try again, to somehow fix this, but I couldn't. Last night I made a decision. Next year, I am not spending another Christmas in oppressive silence. I'd rather be alone with a frozen dinner than sit at that table again. Being physically alone is lonely, but being surrounded by people who make you feel invisible, that's a special kind of torture. This morning, I texted my sister, told her she made the right choice. She replied with a heart emoji and, I'm sorry. She knows. She's lived it too. Maybe next year I'll have that courage too. If you're spending Christmas with people who actually see you, who put down their phones and talk to you like you matter, cherish that. Some of us would give anything for what you have. The most terrifying truth I learned? Sometimes the monster is sitting across the table from you. And sometimes the scariest thing in the world is realizing that the person who's supposed to love you simply doesn't care enough to try. May we all find the courage to leave our silent tables behind.